Stop it. Don't rush me. And on today on 40k News, well actually 30k News, we are being bombarded for the 57th day in a row as the traders are now reaching to Terra. Hey, g'day, this is Blake.
This is James.
And I'm Corbin.
And today we're going to be continuing our histories of the Imperium, going from the Great Crusade to the Horus Heresy, and now we are going to the Siege of Terra. And so
Is
much
this when
of
he becomes the skeleton?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
This will explain
Dead
why
guy
he's the
on the
dead guy on the chair. You keep saying dead guy on the chair, but you've never actually known the reason why he's on the chair.
No, I just know that he's dead. He looks like a skeleton.
Unfortunately, we also lose Horus in this episode.
Oh shit. Yeah, but Abby gets his claw.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, I know
And,
a little
and
bit.
Sanguinius dies, so, you know, it's a twofer.
Oh, I know a
I
little
don't
bit.
know why you always hated Sanguinius.
He's a prick.
Is he the blood?
He's lovely.
He's the
blood
He's a blood
angel.
angel.
He's
Yeah,
not lovely.
He's lovely.
He's not very nice to Mortarion.
That's the reason why.
That's
the,
the reason.
the bias is inherent in the
Yeah.
system, yeah.
But also, he's just like, he's a snobby princey boy.
Yeah.
He's like Fulgrim, but
As
not
opposed to
Chaos.
Mortarion, who's snobby in general.
He's not snobby.
No, snobby because he's slobbed all over himself.
No, he's not a stuck-up rich boy like Sanguinius.
No, I went the disgusting route.
Yeah.
Not Morty.
Not our Morty.
Not a little Morty.
Not our skinny scythe boy.
It's funny you mention that because you also know, Corbin, what happens in the Siege of Terra.
Yes, I do.
Anyways, continuing.
But I also love the Khan, so...
Anyways, so before we continue, remember to please like and subscribe and comment. Even if you hate us and don't like us, I'll still appreciate it.
Yeah.
If we say anything wrong,
Yeah.
tell us.
If you hate us, keep it to yourself. Nobody cares.
Oh no, push it, do it in, push up the algorithm.
No, I don't want to hear it. Tell
Yeah.
us you love us.
Okay, fair. Now, James, what do you remember from our previous episode when we were just on the tail end of the Horus Heresy, leading into the Siege of Terra?
I remember that we're about to get into the fight of... Like, this is like this. The brothers have sort of segmented now. They're on their own. Like, or there's half of them have
Gone
traitor. The other half
don't help
have stayed with the dude on the chair, Biggie Smalls, and
Biggie's fucking Smalls.
well, yeah, Biggie Smalls. So I know that the brothers are starting to fight one another, and
Do you remember which ones died?
yeah, I was just gonna say someone died. What was his name?
Ferrus Manus.
Ferrus
Yeah.
Manus.
Of the Iron Hands, he was the first one to die.
Yeah.
And then Vulcan died and then came back. And then Alfarius also died. But I'm going to get to that in a second.
Yeah.
That Vulcan is on Terra. What was the big?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting to that in a second.
He's there.
That was my reveal. Yeah.
The spoilers have been spoiled.
Yeah.
Anyways. So, stage is set for the Siege of Terra. It's Dawn and his legion. Sanguinius and his. Khan and his. And do you remember Khan's legion?
Khan.
It's not Star Trek.
Oh no, I can't remember.
He's the White Scars.
Oh, he's the White Scars. That's
He-
right. Yep.
They're the Mongolian vibe ones.
Yeah,
the ones
Fast
that-
as fuck, boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're the ones that ride on anything that can go fast and basically kill them down.
They
Yeah.
hate walls.
I would argue, yeah, they do actually.
The China.
They hate being stationary.
the
Yeah.
China wall.
Yeah, and Sanguinius is
Blood Angels
yes, good, and Dawn.
is
The Yellow Boys.
after night. Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dawn.
Yeah.
Dawn is after night, is it? Okay. Thank you for that revelation. Imperial Fists. They're my,
Fist.
they're
Oh,
my-
that's
they're my-
right, the
they're my
yellow.
boys.
He's Mr. Masochist himself.
Yes.
The Yellow
And-
Boys.
I can't believe you agreed to that.
I know. And Vulcan is keeping guard over the Emperor, and Vulcan's boys are the...
Iron Hands.
Salamanders.
No, that's
Oh
Ferrus
no,
Manus.
that's Ferrus.
Yeah, Salamanders.
Oh my god, why is there so many bloody Primarchs?
There's 18.
Salamanders.
There was 18.
That's right. There becomes less and less. Don't worry.
Yeah.
There's just too many.
I know, it gets more after this.
I just know the cool ones. Like,
Yeah, but then it goes down.
Yeah.
I just know the cool ones.
Okay.
No, but the Vulcan is the cool one.
Okay.
They all carry their big
arguably
thunder
cool.
hammers. They have the
that's-
dragon iconography because they're the
that's right.
salamanders. They love flames and hammers.
And Eldar children burning alive.
He loves stomping on Eldar children, which, you know, I also
I love it how he
support.
did that once and he hated doing it, and now that's what he's best known for.
That's what he's best known for. Not the fact that he's so kind to his space marines.
Yeah. Just his hatred of knife is.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
Same
yes.
though.
And then on top of that, the other loyalist forces that are on their way is Gilliman of the...
The Ultramarines. I know
and
who Gilliman is.
Also, the Lion and his...
The Lion.
The
Yes.
Lion
Yeah.
and his...
Lionel Johnson.
Lionel Johnson,
Yeah,
of the
his-
Dark Angels.
Yes.
Dark Angels.
Oh, I
was going to
didn't
say,
know where you were
literally
going.
have as many.
No, I didn't know where you were going.
I'm making sure you remember the players.
Oh, no, I know that Lionel Johnson is Dark
And what
Angels.
number legion is he? No, I'm kidding. I don't expect you to know that.
No, I barely
Six.
remember that.
I don't know.
No, he's the first.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
Blue
So the Lion
Boy
and
was
Gilliman
first.
are on their way with contingents of Salamanders and Raven Guard.
And they're trapped in the warp storms, not trying to get to Terra.
Yes. They are facing off, apart from the billions of humans that they have on the planet and Mechanicus that are loyal to the Emperor, they are also having to fight Horus and his...
traders.
You're right.
What's
but-
his legion
but what's
called?
his legion called?
Oh, the Horus something. The
Sons of Horus.
You had it backwards. It's Sons of Horus.
Horus boys, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the Lunar Wolves, then
Yeah.
Sons of Horus.
Angron and his...
World Eaters.
Well, you getting it? Good.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
At this point, Angron has now become a demon primarch.
Oh, yes,
He
yes.
is now
And-
his model as he is in 40k, with the big bat and all horns and everything.
And Fulgrim is also demon as well at this
Yeah,
point.
he's Snake Boy now.
Yep.
Fulgrim
Snake
and
Boy.
his
No.
Emperor's Children.
Emperor's Children.
Right.
I keep getting them confused with Thousand Sons.
Along with,
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
now Mortarion, who has now also just turned into his demon primarch version.
Yeah.
So the big four have all pretty much turned into their demon versions.
Demons, yep.
Mortarion and his...
God
It's
damn.
his boys.
I know.
You have these models. What their legions
Yeah.
called?
Oh, Death Guard.
Yeah,
Why was I thinking it was like a trick? I was like, wait, is that
not a
World
trick
Eaters? No,
question.
it's not a trick question.
along with Magnus and the Thousand Sons and Perturabo and his Iron Warriors.
Iron
Yeah, you
Warriors.
don't have to worry about them.
Yeah, that's why I mean. But Magnus, Fulgrim, Mortarion, and Angron, I consider them to be the big four because they each follow one of the four
Gods.
Yeah.
and they're the ones that Games Workshop are giving their armies to first.
Yeah.
First or at the most, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Technic-
are they because they've given the Chaos Space Marines and they're Abbey, or would they be Vash?
There's-
Well,
two-
Mortarion has his own mini. Angron has his own mini. There's talk about Fulgrim's mini coming out in 40K.
Well, they have the
And
resin
Magnus,
one.
Magnus has his own too.
And Magnus has his own.
Because what they're doing is they're doing the four Chaos Gods, and then they might do the other armies because there's Chaos Undivided.
Yeah,
So-
which is Abaddon and
Yeah, because Angron follows Khorne, Mortarion follows Nurgle, Fulgrim follows Slanesh, and then Magnus follows Zinch.
Yeah.
And then there's the other ones like the Night Lords and
which will never get their
Sons
own
of Horus.
bloody.
Currently,
At this
Abaddon's
point- at this
working
point,
alongside
no.
Vashtor.
Yeah, Vash.
So but they're Chaos Undivided and don't follow a specific god.
They just
But,
follow
They just
Yeah.
follow Chaos. In general.
chaos in general.
But Perturabo is also a demon Primarch at this point, isn't he?
No, he
No?
doesn't become a demon primarch until the Iron
Wait,
King.
which one's
yeah, that's right.
Perturabo?
Perturabo, bring up a
He's
picture.
he's
He's basically
basically
the yin to the yang of Dawn.
he's basically Dawn but Chaos.
Yeah, but who's he?
Iron Warriors.
Iron Warriors. Okay, yeah.
He's the one
yep.
you painted all your boys as.
Oh yes, by accident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So what does he? Oh, that's right.
He
When
likes
he's
big
demon,
guns.
he's got the
Siege, Fortify, Siege, Fortify.
yeah. But he as a demon, I was trying to picture him as demon form. His demon
He
form
doesn't have a
is.
demon form yet.
It's just he's got the.
That's some artwork of what they think.
That's
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
official
The
artwork at the moment as far
where
as
he
I'm aware.
looks like he's got dreadies and stuff, but it's
What it
the,
is actually just cables
the
connecting
cables,
him to the
yeah.
computers in his
Yeah.
armor. Or whatever.
Hey, I'm getting there. I'm
yeah,
getting
you're
there.
getting there, man.
Yeah.
It's
Hey, I'm
fine.
buying
that's
up for
why
them.
that's why I double checked with you.
Yeah.
I know some.
So there's also representatives from every Trader Legion. So Lorgar's not there at the moment because Lorgar got banished by Horus. I don't actually know the reason because I'm halfway through the Siege of Terror books,
Yeah.
but I'll find out eventually. I think it was because Lorgar tried to usurp Horus and then Horus banished him.
Yeah, well, because Lorgar was like, I was the one who actually started the traders on
I'm
their
the first
path.
heretic, and
Yeah.
Horus is like,
And
Outta here.
but under his command, did actually bring most of the brothers and most of the traitor Space Marine legions to Horus's side.
by seeding Sows of Corruption.
It's like that
Yeah.
meme of like Batman
Seeds of
slapping Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Shut up, bitch.
Yeah.
And the Night Lords are here, but they're under the leadership of Scrivok.
Yeah, we don't like the painted
Be-
count.
yeah, because Conrad Kurz is
I was
flying
gonna say,
through the
wasn't
void.
it Conrad? Yeah.
Conrad Kurz is flying through the void after Sanguinius kicked him out.
Yeah, launched him.
So
Yeah.
he's so while he's not there, the other guy is in charge of the Night Lords.
Scrivok,
Yeah.
the Penny Count,
So
in
is
charge of the Night
he?
Lords.
Is he like his first in charge, or
Nope.
like he's just some rando?
Sevatar
that's-
was his first in charge, but he's also gone walkabout. He's supposedly...
Sevatar's supposed to be on the.
No, he's supposed to be
Siege of
dead.
Terror,
No, he died before, because that's what they said in
Oh.
the Siege of Terror books, is that he's died beforehand, which is why Scrivok's in charge. Otherwise, Sevatar would be in charge.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sevatar's
but that's also
cool,
not
but-
confirmed as well, because nobody saw it, and GW would make a book about it otherwise.
Yeah.
So I think they're saving that, or potentially bringing him back at a later point.
And in the Night Lord's book, they say that he died on Terra.
Yeah, anyways, we're going to keep going.
Yeah.
So, also, yeah, like I said, representatives of every traitor legion are here. Billions of soldiers that have turned traitor and gone towards the Chaos powers and believing in Horus, along with hundreds of night houses and Mechanicus armadas. So you remember knights, the big giant mechs?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, imagine 100 night houses of those.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so they ended up...
But aren't they like the size of like small cities? Like the night, like
they're
The biggest
size of
ones
small-
are.
The Titans are about the size of skyscrapers. Knights are about the size of small houses, like decent sized houses.
okay.
Yeah.
So they would be. Are they like the war dogs, or are
The war dogs are the
even
small ones.
The smallest ones.
Okay.
They're like the
Im-
scouts.
Imperator class Titans are the size of a small town.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
'cause they're
then
the
also
ones-
the ships that they fly
The
are
Armada.
like, the night ships are like, small country-sized ships.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're huge. That's why they don't
Because they
even
have
come
to be.
into orbit.
Yeah.
They
'Cause
just
they're
like
too
drop.
big, yeah.
They drop these great big
drop
like
pods?
like giant drop pods,
yeah.
like the size of the city, and then like a couple of knights walk out of them.
Yeah.
That's how they get them to the ground.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Getting them up must be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So before any of the battles take place, the Alpha Legion try for... I didn't hear what that was.
So it's always a struggle getting it up.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I wouldn't know. But
Oh god, I don't want to know.
so the Alpha Legion first tried to infiltrate the solar system before Horus and his forces came into the system. So Alpha Legion, as you remember with Alpharius and Omegon, tried to do their subterfuge James Bond tactics and try and infiltrate and try and cause as much shenanigans as possible.
Yeah, it's spy v spy.
Yeah, basically.
Oh yeah.
Dawn didn't really... I've read Praetorian of Dawn, which is the book where this all happens. Dawn looked at it like, okay, he's going to do this. I'm just going to do whatever I do. Alpha Legion try and go around it. It's basically like two opposite tacticians doing opposite things to try and counter each other. Because Dawn's very straightforward, head-on, doesn't lie. Alpharius and Almegon do nothing but lie.
Yeah.
Subterfuge upon subterfuge. Like,
Hidden in the shadows.
Contingency
Yeah.
upon contingency. But here's the thing, that Alpharius' goal was always to try and take out the Pluto space station and then try and make their way in as like a first foothold for Horus and his boys to come in. Dawn counteracted that immediately and then killed Alpharius.
Oh.
Like, unbelievably. As Alpharius goes to stab Dawn, Dawn tanks the hit. Then you realise that's the only way he could ever get close to him. He grabbed the spear, broke it in half, stabbed him with his own fucking spear, and then caved in his head with Storm's teeth, his giant two-handed, like, chain sword.
Yeah.
And just killed him. Brutalized him.
Sick.
Yeah. And Omegon or Alpharius, whichever one it is, across the galaxy felt that death.
Yeah.
And
Because they're
said-
linked, because they're
and they're
twins.
just-
This
And
is
they're
the
just-
twins. So
Yeah, these are the twin
But we don't know
Primates.
which twin it was that died. It's
And
just
honestly,
that
I
one
don't.
of them.
Honestly, I don't think it even matters.
No.
Because the moment Alpha Legion came in, it was like, Lord, War Master Horus wants you, and then he's like, I am not Omegon. My name is Alpharius.
Yeah. They won't let you know. That's their
Yeah.
whole thing. They got the secret
Yeah.
stick going.
But
Yeah.
one of them's definitely dead.
Yeah. Is that also when Dawn loses his hand?
No.
No, that's
I'll get to
later.
that in a second. Get to that towards the end of the episode. So, that happens. Dawn holds the solar system, but then Horus starts making his way in, and just because of the sheer amount of forces and the sheer amount of numbers and ships that they have, the different spheres and different circles, lines and trenches that they had in place, like at Pluto, at Neptune, and Jupiter and Mars, just started falling. They tried their best, but there's only so much you can do in void warfare and holding the line. But you know,
And the
Sigismund did
fleet
his
of
best.
ships was just like enormous. Like he just had the numbers.
You can do a lot on the ground, but there's only so much you can do in the vacuum of space.
So I thought, because didn't you say that the Space Marines or the Ultramarines or what, the Blue Boys, didn't they have the numbers? Like, weren't they the
Blue
biggest?
Boys do have the numbers, but they're not there.
But they're not
on
there.
their way.
They're on their way. Okay,
And it's
so
because of them. It's because of the Ultramarines and the other Loyalist factions on their way that is the reason why the traitors are on a time crunch.
because they want to get there before
They only have a certain amount of time to kill the Emperor and take the planet before all the other Loyalist legions turn up.
Ultramarines
Because
Yeah.
even though they got decimated at Calth, they're still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, especially teamed up with the Dark Angels, and then they're going to be coming up behind Horus too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like a pincer move if they ever get
Not
there.
just them as well. We'll get to that in a second too.
Yeah.
On top of that, there's more of them.
Yes.
So the traitor forces eventually get to Earth. They then fire a first shot. The very first shot they fired was aimed at the Imperial Palace's throne room, and it immediately got deflected by the shields around it. But it didn't matter because that was the first shot as a symbolic shot.
Yeah, like we're going
firing across the bow.
We're going for the king.
Yeah.
Like we're not like gonna take your we're not going after like the people around or whatever. We're going for the throne.
Death to the false emperor.
Yeah, essentially. Now,
Dead boy on the chair.
before we even begin, I want to know, what are your predictions? We've already told you a little bit about what happens, but what do you predict is going to happen?
I mean, well, I know that Horus wounds the Emperor to the point of becomes an undead, basically. And then I'm guessing that all the traitor legion are going to be on Terra, or all the captains anyway, and then Gilliman and all the other guys are going to come up behind them, and then I'm guessing there's going to be a big war on Terra with the traitors on Terra and the others coming into Terra. I'm guessing.
You're not far off.
You're not far off.
I have a feeling
but we're
that
gonna
Terra is going to either be like a wasteland. It's at the end of it. It's either going to be nothing, or that the traders are going to run to maybe the warp or try and escape Terra.
Yeah.
As that's my guess. Anyway.
It's a good guess.
That's a very good guess.
From little bits that I know. I know that Horus takes out the Emperor.
Yeah.
I know there's that whole scene where it's like him standing with the Emperor on the ground, and someone else, who was it, Abaddon, that was next to him as well, as Horus. There's that picture. I see it.
It's Sanguinius bleeding on the ground.
Oh, and that's
Yeah.
Sanguinius. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
I've
we're going to
seen
get into that as well, but your predictions are pretty on point. Now, do you remember where the Emperor is during this whole thing?
Well, wasn't he on Terra?
Yeah, he's on Terra and he's stuck on the Golden Throne because he's having to use his powers
Oh, yes.
to keep that wound in the whole war closed.
Yeah, closed. Yep. Because if
so
he
that's
doesn't,
why he doesn't take part
chaos
in
fuckery
most
will
of
happen.
That's why he didn't take part in the Horus Heresy and everything like that, is because he had to stay here.
He had
do
to
that.
stay. Yep. And that's why they've gone to him, because they know that he's stuck on, he can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So they've pretty much pinpointed him.
Yeah.
The warp gods worked it out pretty well. It was
Yeah.
a well thought out plan.
Yeah.
Especially opening up the warp where it did.
Pushing Magnus to do it,
Yeah.
for that reason. So, the three things that the traders had to contend with, which were the biggest problems, there's actually more than three, but I'll get into them in a second, is what's called the Aegis. The Aegis was a massive void shield surrounding the Imperial Palace and the walls and the surrounding defenses. It was the best void shield ever created besides the one that was in, but it was also a similar type.
Yeah.
It was using the same technology as the one that was protecting the Primarchs when they were babies before they got eaten.
But that was
So-
a Gala field, and this is a void shield.
Gala field
it's
and
more
void
of
shield.
a-
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
More of a force field to
You're
stop
actually right.
anyone
Sorry,
bombarding.
I got them too mixed up. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this is the massive void shield that's covering the Imperial Palace, protecting the Emperor, as well as protecting most of the population that's in the Himalayan mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where the palace is.
The other
Oh,
thing,
it's in the
Himalayan
Himalaya.
mountains.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, okay.
because that's where his workshop was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They describe it as the highest peaked mountains on Terra, but
Which
that is...
No, they do call it the Himalayan mountains.
Oh, do they?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're by name.
Well, Terra is Earth, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
whatever would be left of Earth at that point
Yeah.
in time. So there may not be a United States,
Actually, no, there is like they say that London has fallen, but it's Lundun.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
Well, because this is like,
so many
it's
years.
30,000 years
yeah.
in the future.
And then
so-
there's one for New Zealand, but it's not New Zealand. It's like not Zealand or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's Brazil and
There's the Asian continent too.
So
yeah, there's Japan, but they call it Nihon, which is Japanese for Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is Trump still the president of?
He'd be
I love how you- I love
30,000
how you
years
go-
old.
I love it how you were going for that joke and fucked it up.
I mean,
I mean, he'd be 30,000 years old.
he misses
Yeah.
bullets, so
He might be the emperor.
Dodging
No.
bullets.
yeah,
He
He,
might
just
be.
need-
that-
he needed to
that's-
pass on those genes to the Emperor to dodge all that bullets.
No, Trump is the emperor.
that's that's carbon dating when we've recorded this. Is
So
like
yeah, the three things they had to
just
contend
after the shooting.
Yeah.
The three things they had to contend with the Aegis, the void shields surrounding the Imperial Palace, the fact that every single building in that area had anti-air guns on them, anything that could have a gun on it had a gun on it, because while Dawn was not partaking in the Horus Heresy, he was there for the full 9 or 7 years or whatever, just building up the Imperial Palace and
Yeah.
building Terror, getting ready for this.
Putting guns
Yeah.
on guns.
Doing
on
what
guns.
he does,
Yeah.
doing what he does best, and he was also building giant walls, the Great Wall, giant walls surrounding the Imperial Palace, which would have taken a monumental feat to try and traverse.
Yeah, he stripped the roads out
Yeah.
of Terra to build
Yeah.
this wall.
Yeah,
Why would you build a wall if they're coming from space?
Because if they
Because-
land outside of
Oh,
the field
okay,
and
okay.
run
Because they
towards
can't
you.
get in.
the
because of
reason
field.
why fights exist in Warhammer is because of things like void shields. Is because the reason why why can't I just nuke them or bomb them from
From space.
from space? Because void shields protect them. So there is a reason for having face-to-face combat.
Gotcha. Okay, I always wondered that. Like, if there's so much like space travel fuckery, like why?
Yeah. And on top of that, having walls stopping Titans and Knights from coming in.
Yeah.
Because there's still going to be tanks and there's still going to be like large Mechanicus
Knights.
things
Yeah.
and Chaos Knights coming through. So you're going to need obstructions to stop
Yep.
them.
Yeah.
And plus, if you're there for 7 years and you've got all this resources,
Might as
why
well.
not just make it as impossible to traverse as you can?
We're going to build a wall.
Yeah, no further onto it. The third thing,
It's definitely Trump.
it's not Trump. The third thing, arguably the most powerful thing, the third thing that was stopping them was the Emperor's will itself. Because the Neverborn, aka demons, and those corrupted by chaos, such as Angron and Fulgrim and Mortarion, were unable to set foot on Terra because of the Emperor's power and his will, the same will that he was using to keep the warp hole closed. And him holding back the rift in the sky is what was also stopping them from getting on the ground, because the moment they stepped on the ground, they'd die. They would just immediately disintegrate.
Not a
There's
god, though.
there's a part.
He's not a god, though.
No, he's just powerful.
No, he's not a god, though.
He's just powerful.
But is that similar to like the whole orc, like their
Belief thing?
willpower? Like it's
Different
No,
sort
his
of
is psychic power.
Oh, his is
pure,
psychic, that's
pure
right, yeah,
directed
yeah.
psychic power, and in terms of he knows what he's doing, and this is his aura. Like to the point where the Khan took a Nurgle infested dagger with him through the Emperor's will point, and then it just started disintegrating in the presence of in the wake
because
of the Emperor's
anything
aura.
that is like touched by demon is
Just wasn't having any of it. Mm-hmm. This bombardment from Percherabo.
I love the
I love it how you're saying not a god, but he's totally a god.
Yeah, I know. That's my point. But
Yeah.
he's like, I'm not a god. And then does like god things. And he's like, I'm not a god.
I'm
That's
god
a-
adjacent.
Oh yeah,
That's-
wait. So
I-
my power is only rivaled by the warp gods? Not a god.
Yeah, I'm just that good.
I'm more powerful than the Eldari gods? Not a god.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's not a god. He's beyond a god.
Yeah.
He's a god of gods.
He's a pitiful god, though.
So on top of that, continuing on from your shenanigans for a conversation for another time, I would love to have a theory time episode and just talk about this kind of shit with you.
Yeah, what a piece of shit the Emperor is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Morty's no better. Fucking
Morty
hypocrite.
is better.
No, he's not. He's a hypocrite. And Perturabo then used those bombings. He bombed
Speaking of
the Aegis.
hypocrites.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I know, but
you're
just
going to
jumped-
sit here and expect me to defend Perturabo.
I
That's
wasn't
not
expecting
happening.
you to, but just the fact that we went like straight to Purdy after that, I was like, that's
biggest one.
perfect. He's
Yeah,
the
I know,
biggest
right?
hypocrite.
Yeah. So Perturabo bombed the shit out of the Aegis because he was trying to figure out where the weaknesses was and try and like analyze where to do next. Because to be honest, because all of the other traitor forces were so chaos corrupted, they were just following their passions. They were just following their impulses. Perturabo, without him, the whole Siege of Terra would have fallen on its ass because he was carrying the team.
Well, Fulgrim did almost nothing. He just
Next to
basically
nothing, yeah.
he went to other like towns and cities and forced the human population to like use these horrific drugs that like, you know, basically corrupted them and made them just like absolutely wild. And they were all just like doing drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and like the cities
Loving it.
around Terra,
Yeah,
like
all
instead
ma-
of actually
yeah.
It's
helping
like
the war.
like Ozfest, like, or you know Woodstock or whatever.
Slaneshi demons slutting it up and cutting people to pieces.
Yeah,
There's actually a scene in there where these defenders on the wall are shooting at the Emperor's children, legionnaires,
Yeah.
and they're just like, yeah, excited because they're running away.
Yeah.
And then one of the guards is like, give me my binoculars, please. And he takes binoculars and he's look. Each of the legionaries has a person in each hand as they're going back to their camp to have
Yeah.
their fun.
fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun time with them all. So yeah, that's also terrifying.
Yeah.
And arguably the most effective Primarch was Mortarion in this fight.
Yes.
Because of his, I will give you that, because of his diseases and him they couldn't get past the wall and the Aegis. They were trying to infect from inside and
Yeah.
using rich summoning demons. Magnus was sort of helpful in terms of trying to bring down the Aegis, but he was only after the Emperor.
Yeah.
And Angeron was just...
His effectiveness comes in later.
Yeah, and even then, not entirely. And then Fulgrim was being Fulgrim. Perturabo was just being his petulant self, but he was the one carrying the Siege of Terra.
And Horus is sitting in his flagship,
Yeah.
the Vengeful Spirit.
Ironically, it was Dawn, carrying the Loyalists, and it was Perturabo carrying the traitors, because Horus was also secluded in his ship
Yeah.
for the entirety of the Siege of Terra,
Yeah.
but leaving everything.
I mean,
to...
he had the forces. He was commanding the forces.
Yeah, but
Oh,
he
so
was,
because he kills the Emperor, but he just waits until
He never
will get-
touches Terra.
he never gets there. He never sets foot, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
So-
I can see
Wait.
the confusion in your
So,
face.
no, before we continue on. So, but there was another way to get around the Emperor's will. By spilling enough blood in the name of the four gods, could weaken the Emperor's hold on Terra, and therefore the other Chaos Primarchs and all the other Chaos demons can come through the warp and finally wreak havoc.
Because how do you defeat a god? You send another god.
yeah,
Yeah.
or four.
And
Or
because,
four to wipe it out.
but because also of the void shields and the anti-air guns, Horus held back the Space Marine legions for the first part of the fight and was forced to send in the billions upon billions of soldiers,
And
cultists,
beastmen.
and abhumans.
Yeah.
The beastmen and abhumans were the first sacrificial wave. Imagine, the actual beastmen in Warhammer Fantasy and Age of Sigmar, like, the Gauls and
Oh,
the
the
Centaurs.
centaurs and yeah.
Yeah, Centaurs, Gauls, and Ungauls, and all that.
Yeah,
Mod.
satyrs
Ones that
and stuff like
literally
that.
have like goat halves and horns. They felt disenfranchised by the Imperium because of their genetics, and they pointed out the hypocrisy of Space Marines and Primarchs, and that saying that some abhumans were okay, but not them.
Yeah.
Yeah, even to the point of Ogryns and stuff that are utilized by the Imperium, but like beastmen were shunned because they looked different.
Yeah.
And because there was so much xenophobia
Yeah.
Yeah.
that they all were like, hey, we're gonna jump on Horus's side because he's
Because they're just
helpful.
like, yeah, you are children of chaos, so therefore we will respect you.
Yeah.
And that's the speeches they were giving to the beastmen as they were being dropped down. And then, guess what? In their transport ships, they filled them up with psycho-hallucinogenic drugs and then just said, go in that direction. That's where the enemy is.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was Mr. Tumnus there?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
From Narnia.
Narnia, yeah. Mr. Tumnus, he's the satyr
The satyr from
that Lucy
Chronicles
meets
of
when she
Narnia.
first walks in.
I'm
yeah.
like,
You,
what?
uncultured swine.
I read those books as a kid, and
Yeah.
I unironically enjoyed those movies.
I mean, I watched
Some of them.
one of
Yeah.
the movies when I was a kid, but
And then-
yeah, I have no idea.
And then other soldiers were following Horus from the beginning because of his charisma, and they were like, "I would follow you to death." And it was like that thing from Inside Out. I would die for Riley.
Yeah.
So
You
Let me-
called me an uncultured swine, and then you made
no,
an
I called
Inside
him
Out
an uncultured
reference.
swine. No, I called him an uncultured swine because
Oh.
he didn't know who Narnia, from Narnia.
Yeah.
So, James,
Yes.
let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you being a normal Imperial Guardsman in the trenches with the walls behind you. You just sit there with your mates, and then you look out, facing waves upon waves of enemy combatants and human beastmen that have like goat halves that look like the things that are nightmares. You're freezing because you're on the Himalayan mountains. You're also
cold.
starving, you're thirsty, and you're sick, and you've had next to no sleep, if any.
And the only food you have eaten is reprocessed corpse starch. It's
Yeah.
other dead Imperial agents that have
Yeah.
died and then turned into food so you can eat
Yeah,
it.
because this nutrition
That's
is
what they
dead
eat.
I
bodies. Yeah.
suppose.
That's what they eat.
Yeah.
Recycling.
Yeah.
It's recycling
And-
for human lives.
And on top of that, there's no burning of dead bodies. It's just pushed in with the rest of the dirt and the tractors to make the next trench. So you're literally lying on dead bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the bombardment from above stops. The thunderous roar of cannon fire and shells hitting the Aegis that you've been hearing for the past couple of weeks just stops. And then all the fresh conscripts are like, "Oh yeah, they gave up and we win." But the veterans and the Space Marines were like, "Shit, now the real fight begins."
There's a second. There's
As gas torpedoes are dropped down to the ground,
Oh,
and
jeez.
all of a sudden, just like the whole fields are just filled with this green and yellow gas coming straight for you. All the men are scrambling for gas mask, but because of the war of attrition, not all of them had them. It was like the most horrific mustard gas World
This
War
is
One
from
shit.
Papa Nurgle.
Yes, this is Nurgle.
Is it?
yeah,
Oh,
this
it
is
is?
Death Guard
Yeah.
coming.
Yep.
So what? And then imagine
thought it
like
might have been.
the most horrific like World War One shit. Walking through clouds of yellow smoke, unable to see your hand in front of you, and then all you see is dead bodies on the ground. People running past you, ripping their faces off because they've inhaled too much of the gas, and you see two
Two poofs.
No, I'm
Just a couple of poofs.
Wow!
no,
You see two poofs laying in a trench, and you're like, "This mustard gas. What are you doing?"
I'm gonna say that again. And you see two poor fuckers just fighting each other for the last gas mask, and then
For the
Why did
first one.
that make it funnier? We have to leave this in,
Just
Blake.
the,
You know we have to.
Just
It's good.
What is it from Fairy Godparents? The
Yeah. Two poor fuckers. Why am I
They
picturing
could've
two
been-
hobos having sex under a bridge?
they could have been. We don't know.
Anyway.
no, we do know.
We don't know. Could have been.
War of attrition. Could have been.
Slanesh.
Yeah. Slanesh was around.
Anyway, two poor fuckers in a trench.
Fighting each other for a gas mask.
Are they fighting?
I can't even. Mum and Dad were wrestling. Blake's like, I quit. I'm not doing this anymore. Anyway, yes.
Too
they're
much
fighting
chaos.
over a gas mask. This is a very serious situation, and we're not making fun of human death at all.
Doo-doo.
We heard the door shut.
Okay, so imagine that, and you can't see anything in front of you in this gas cloud, and then all of a sudden a Space Marine drop pod lands right in front of you, and then billowing out, more smoke comes out of this drop pod, and you just
Are they green?
You're confronted with this thing.
Oh yeah, brother.
Papa Nurg.
And no matter how many las bolts you put into this prick, he still doesn't go down unless you get a lucky shot to the head, and then you see a Blood Angel Space Marine go down. The guy you consider like an actual angel who's meant to be like your bastion of protection, and then just dies to these Death Guard.
Hell yeah, brother.
And then on top of that, you see hordes of beastmen still coming straight for you.
Yep.
That's what these people had to deal with.
Papa Nerg.
Chose the wrong side.
Yep.
Chose the right side. Easy path is not always the best one.
No,
Okay.
I'd be on the Death Guard side.
So on top of that, like, and the problem with this is it's just a series of different types of battles after this. It's just different types of, heroes standing up for, either side. And one of the bigger fights is for the Lionsgate spaceport, because whoever controlled this spaceport could land their troops a lot easier. Either the traders getting more boots on the ground, or the loyalists holding it for Gilliman when he arrived with his blueberries.
Did you say blueberries?
Yeah,
Yeah.
blueberries, because that's the joke
Oh.
everybody calls.
Oh, okay.
Pains me so much when he does it. He knows how much it hurts me inside.
Shouldn't have painted them as
Bobby
blueberries.
G and Bobby G and his blueberries.
It's like, wait, is this another Poofs thing, or is this
Hey,
is
no.
this actually what they
Anyway,
No.
but are you going to talk us through each one of the Primarch fights, or are you just going to be selective?
Selective.
Okay.
Because, like,
So the
not,
good ones.
Because
Yeah.
any with Death Guard? And
mainly the main ones,
Abby.
because there's a lot of, say, for example, Fafnir ran of
Sub-fighting
the
or-
Imperial Fists taking on
Oh, no, that's what I mean, Blunt. Just the Primarch fights? Or are you
mainly
doing,
the
like,
Primarch fights,
Chero-
because those are
yeah.
the ones that dictate the rest of the war. But there's also, like, little fights between, like, you say, for example, Sigismund and going taking on Fulgrim, and
Or
then
Talos.
and Talos being there as well.
Yeah.
All these other different types of characters, they all play their part, but the Primarchs are obviously the ones that
The
have
main
biggest,
ones, yeah.
the biggest sway. They're the big heroes, and yeah,
They are the most impressive fights, too.
They're the
admittedly,
most
yeah.
expensive minis.
Yeah, that's it. They're the
Yeah.
expensive minis. That's what they cost the most to run.
Yeah.
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 Fucking Abaddon.
Eventually, Lionsgate Spaceport was lost, but the Khan
Lost to
lost to the traders.
traders. Yep.
But the Khan took his entire legion of White Scars in an attempt to retake it, and in so doing, he confronted Mortarion and his Death Guard, and they both just dueled to the death. Now, the thing is that what you need to know about is Mortarion is very indomitable. He's also slow. That's his bad part. But the thing is that even if you do hit him, you're not probably going to do him much damage.
Yeah.
Khan, on the other hand, is the exact opposite in the fact that he is incredibly quick, incredibly fast, moves like the wind,
You
like
can't
lightning.
hit him, and
You
he's
can't
going to
hit him,
keep like dashing around like an anime protagonist.
but the problem is that he does do a lot of damage, but to another superpowered Primarch, not that much.
Not that
especially a Nurgle-powered
Yeah.
like Mortarion.
Because
Do it basically like the Mortarion blocks, like because Mortarion's not. We say he's slow. He's slow compared to the Khan.
Yeah.
He's still moving faster than a human can move.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
And so he's like, getting his scythe, silence in
Yeah.
between like the Khan's blade to like block shit.
Yeah.
And then
But because with like especially with like Death Guard and stuff like that, they can regenerate, can't they?
Exactly,
Are they
yeah.
the ones
Yeah.
that can
and
regenerate,
regenerate,
regenerate?
but also don't feel pain as well.
super
Yeah.
tanky.
Yeah.
Super tanky is their whole
So
shtick.
it would take a lot.
Yeah,
to
the,
bring
the
down.
Death Guard thing used to be they would march forwards, in dust
This is before corruption as well.
before corruption. Their whole thing before they even rescued Morty, they used to march forward against tank fire in single line and just like keep
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 going.
walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would come at dusk. They used to be
They used to be called the Dusk Raiders before they were called the Death Guard.
yeah, and they were all white except for a red right arm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was before they found Morty. That was what they did. They would just like walk forward in columns and just like straight up like don't flinch against fire. Like
Yeah.
they'd be shot at and just
Like
be
if
like
you die.
Because you remember when the Primarchs were scattered, the Emperor still created the Space Marine Legions, and then when he found the Primarch, he
He then
gave them their Space
allocated
Marine
them
Legion.
to.
But they usually had different names beforehand.
Yeah.
Like the World Eaters were originally called the Warhounds, and Angron said, "I don't want to be your fucking dog," He's like-
yeah,
and changed it to a different name. Some of
Yeah.
them had different names, some of them had the same name.
yeah. And Horus kept the Lunar Wolves for a long time
Until he became
until
the
he
War
changed
Until he
into
became
the
the-
Sons of Horus.
yeah.
until he became the War Master and deemed that it was time for a change. So, anyways, you've got this fight between an unstoppable force and an unmovable object.
Yeah.
And pre-Heresy, this probably would be a pretty even fight. But the problem is that now Mortarion has Nurgle powers
Yeah,
and is
he's-
souped up. And
He's
And
chaos.
Khan's not going to win this if he keeps this up. So what he did was he used Morty's pride against him and insulted him for giving in to the warp powers when he was the biggest proponent against it, and used his rage as a chance to behead Mortarion and banish him back to the warp.
Jesus.
I mean, the Khan is awesome. This my struggle with these fights, because this is not even the first time that they've fought.
Yeah.
I love the Khan, and I love Mortarion, and I don't know who to root for. I'm
Yeah.
just happy that they're
yeah.
very impressive battles though, in detail in the stories. They're
Yeah.
just amazing.
I've just summed it up. I've summed up
Yeah.
like 3 chapters probably worth of stuff
Yep.
in one sentence.
Yeah, but yeah, Morty hated the Warp Gods and Psychers,
Which
and
is
was
why-
tricked by his first captain Typhus into succumbing to
And being
Noble's
delivered
power.
to Noble, basically. So that's why he became... But he accepted it anyways, so
Yep.
To save his legion,
sure.
and that's why he calls him a hypocrite.
Yeah, because he is a hypocrite.
He's
And
not.
Well,
He-
he is. He obviously
loved
felt,
his
no.
sons.
He obviously felt that way too. Otherwise, that wouldn't have angered him.
No, he did it because he loved his sons more than the Emperor loved his.
Cope seethe mold.
I'm just spitting facts.
Spitting shit. It's not
Continue with your Emperor dick sucking.
shit sucking on your end. But the thing is that even though the Khan had beheaded Mortarion and sent him back to the warp,
He's not dead.
No, he's not dead because he'll come back.
Demons
Yeah.
can't
Because,
die.
Yeah,
No,
especially
it's
demon
Yeah.
primarchs
Oh, the only way they can die is if they're slayed by the Emperor's sword, which actually
can kill demons.
which
yeah.
can kill demons.
There are special weapons called anathanes, or anathemas, or however you say it.
Anathames, yeah.
Yeah, where they literally destroy your soul.
Yeah.
But they're few and far between, but the word bearers use them. And that was also a similar weapon to what was used to poison Horus first for his
Yep.
corruption.
Yeah.
But anyways, aside from those, you can't really kill someone who's corrupted by demons and chaos as much.
Yeah.
But the thing is that even though Khan won that fight, Mortarion was still able to use his scythe to impale Khan. Khan's not dead, but he's taken out of the battle completely now.
He's
Because
very
you've seen the model. That giant scythe
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
went through the Khan. And
Yeah.
that's the only way the Khan was able to behead him.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. How did he not just cut him in half?
Well, because Primarchs.
Yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
with his scythe.
I'm sure the book will detail it, but I'm not up to that part yet.
Yeah. How would it not just split him in two?
Yeah.
Well, the Khan probably moved into the perfect position because he's so much faster. He's
True,
like the
yeah.
fastest Primarch.
So he's probably done that so that he can get close enough to Mortarion.
To
I think
Beheaded,
it
yeah.
was something like that, but I've just summarized it as best I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next major fight is at Eternity Gate, and the one thing to remember is that Sanguinius still has these
Of
prophetic visions of his death at the hands of Horus. But he's like, okay, that's when I'm going to die, so I'm not going to die today. I'm going to do the most insane shit possible, and destroys a warlord titan, like a titan,
Yeah.
huge one,
Because
and
he
then on
knows that it's not going to kill
yeah,
him.
it's not going to
Yeah.
kill him. And
So
the
he'll
thing-
get out of it some way.
yeah. And then Sanguinius stood his ground at Eternity Gate, which was like the last bastion for humanity in the Imperial Palace, and tried to protect the gate from traitors, and took on a demon called Karbanda, where he had fought this demon previously. And Karbanda is a Khorne demon.
Oh,
And
okay. Yep.
Khorne was, I think, still trying to corrupt Sanguinius, because I think Sanguinius
Yeah.
was his first choice and Angron was his second.
Well, because the Blood Angels drink blood and stuff.
Drink blood and stuff, and they fell into the Black Rage, which we'll get into their own episode.
Blood for the blood god.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
for the
I think
piss.
that's also another reason why, because he was trying to corrupt Sanguinius, but
Except it's blood for the Blood Angels.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
and
so loyalist.
he fought Karbanda and then killed him and then pushed him through a warp gate and then just said, "Return to sender."
Well, because Sanguinius knew he had plot armor.
Yeah, and he.
Yeah.
But
That's
the
kinda
thing is
cheating.
that this still took a lot out of him as well.
Oh, yeah.
But millions of lives of loyalists were. So yeah, millions of people lost their lives in this fight on both sides. The loyalists were forced then to retreat back into the Sanctum Imperialis, which was the Imperial Palace, and Horus aspired to become the 5th Chaos God. He wanted to ascend and just to revel in the carnage of Terra. But word had reached the traitors that Gilliman was only a week away with Corvus Corax, Lehman Russ, and Lionel Johnson not too far behind. So they were literally surrounded and on a deadline now because they were just like, okay, shit's getting real, team.
Because you don't want to face the Ultramarines. You definitely don't want to face the Space Wolves.
You definitely don't want to face the Dark Angels, and you definitely don't want to see the Raven Guard in a dark alley.
No, yeah, they're gonna be like killing your men before anyone even gets to you.
I would say that, like, Ultramarines, Raven Guard, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, terrifying to fight.
Any one of them alone would
Any
have
one of
been
them
enough
alone
to
is
tip the
terrifying.
balance.
And then on top of that, 4 of them.
Yeah.
Because also, mind you, 3 of them were defending the Terra, the White Scars, Blood Angels, and Imperial Fist. Imagine now another 4 of them.
Yeah.
And they were holding their own against 7 plus.
Yeah, and then 4 more Primarchs turn up.
Yeah.
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 With their
and one
armies.
One of them called the best duelist. The other one is the best logistics.
One's
person.
the Executioner.
One's
and
the executioner.
And then the other one's the Assassin.
Yeah,
Who's the executioner?
the Vikings.
Lehman Russ,
Lehman
Space
Russ,
Wolves.
Yeah.
Because it's been sort of confirmed but not confirmed that he was the one that killed one of the missing Primarchs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So that's why
And
he
also
got
the
the moniker the Executioner.
The Emperor would be like, "Hey, kill these
Kill the
people."
guys.
The Space Wolves would go. They'd kill everybody.
Kill you.
That's why he sent Lehman Russ to go take on Magnus and bring him back.
Yeah.
Now, to point out, I'm only halfway through the Siege of Terror books, so a lot of this I might either A, get wrong, or B, condensed it too much. But it's because a lot happens in these final books. Like, this final fight takes place over 3 books. Like Lord of the Rings style.
So how many books are...
There's 50 plus of Horus Heresy, and then there's like 6 plus of Siege of Terror, if I remember right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought there was 7. Yeah, something like that.
You're probably right.
Because
Well,
I've seen...
I've lost count.
Yeah.
I've seen that there's like the 3, but I didn't know if there were like combinations of books.
Yeah.
Like there's like the
Those
Soul...
3 are like from what he's about to start talking about now until
Yeah.
the.
It's
until,
like Solar War...
No, so there's
there's
Solar
this
War, Lost and Damned, and then there's the First War, and then there's Saturnine, and then there's a bunch of others, and then there's the final 3.
Because I've looked at the books because I know that Volume 3 came out not too long ago.
Yeah, it
and
finally
it's-
finished a couple of months ago, if I remember right.
Yeah, but is that the final?
That's the final fight. That's where the Horus Heresy ends. That's where the Siege of Terror
1,
ends.
2, 3, 4.
Which is
5,
where I
6,
think they're going to
7,
go into
8,
the future,
9,
where they're
10,
going
11.
to make the Scouring books, which I'm also going to explain what the Scouring is.
So there's 11 books.
There's 11 Siege of Terrors,
Just on
Yeah.
the Siege of Terror.
just on the Siege of Terror.
Jesus.
Oh, so the 11 are calling, including the like
The final 3.
like no, are including like small short stories. There are 8 novels.
Yeah,
Okay,
I thought
yeah.
that was about that much, yeah.
Yeah.
8 books just on one war.
And the final 3 is what I'm about to talk about now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is what's called the Fight on the Vengeful Spirit. The Vengeful Spirit is Horus's flagship. It's a Gloriana class ship. It's like one of the biggest ships next to the
Oh,
Venus
this is the
Balance.
one with the painting on it.
Yeah, this is the one we're painting on. This is the main trader ship.
Yeah.
This is the ship that's as big as like the state of New York.
This, yeah,
Yeah.
bigger,
Oh
bigger
right,
than
this
that,
is
I
the
think.
bigger. This is the bigger.
this
It
embargo
has
ship.
hundreds of thousands of people working on it.
It's like it's
just working,
It's a
not like-
it's a city full of people. Most of these ships usually are because they have their own cultures on it and shit like that.
Yeah.
But this ship is still around today, and Abaddon still uses it in 40k.
So do they have like each Primarch has their own ship? Like,
Yep.
is there like a
have
Death
their own
Guard
flagship.
ship that's just
Yep.
like
Yeah.
Yep.
full
Each one has their
swamp
own.
and-
Yeah.
Each one has their own
That's
flagship.
sick.
Gilliman's is called the Fist of McCrag.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Dawn's is called
The
the
Phalanx.
Phalanx.
Dawn's is
Yeah.
the Phalanx. Dawn's is the biggest. It's not even a ship. It's like a space station the size of a moon. He's got the biggest ship in the whole Imperium.
It's
And-
very
Yeah.
Death. Star
Imperial
Wars.
Fist. Yeah, Star Wars. Yeah.
It's very Star Warsy.
Yeah.
But he actually kept that ship out of this fight because he wanted a escape route for the Emperor in case they lost the fight.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not
so
involved in
that's
this
the
fight.
escape.
Yeah.
So okay, I know this is getting.
The Emperor didn't want an escape route, but Dawn being Dawn created a contingency for that.
had to have a
But if
contingency.
then the Emperor got off the planet, he would then be off.
They would be leaving Earth to the traders.
They'd be leaving Earth to the traders, and on top of that, the wormhole, the warp hole would open up,
The
and
warp-
demons
yeah.
would take it over.
Yeah.
But that was like a last ditch effort or last.
But
option for Dawn.
I thought that he had to sit on the chair because that helped, like, with the psychers being able to navigate the warp. So if he left Terra,
It did. Yeah, the
It would have
Astronomicon,
doomed
yeah.
humanity.
it would have
It would
doomed.
do.
So
But
they
that's the
would have
thing.
been
But the
blind
thing is
in
that
the
Dawn
warp.
said no matter what, if the Emperor lives, there's still a chance.
Yeah. Okay.
But the Emperor didn't want to leave anyway, so...
Yeah.
But also, Dawn left the phalanx out of the fight because he didn't want it destroyed. Because I think he also had a sentiment towards it, but also because to keep it as an escape route.
Yeah.
But that was also the, brackets reason why.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is why.
But it comes
it's
back into play later.
Yeah.
So this is what's called the Fight of the Vengeful Spirit. Horus has now left his chambers for the first time in months since the siege started, and he's in such a lucid state because
He's been eating mushrooms from Nurgle.
the chaos mushrooms. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's also
Yeah.
his soul is also burning because he's so full of chaos powers. But the problem is that it's burning his soul just to use this. So he's also on a time crunch for that, and also the loyalist forces coming in behind them.
Yeah.
But he's in
lawyer
such a state, he tells the crew of the Vengeful Spirit to lower the void shields
Yeah.
of his ship as like a challenge to the Emperor. Because he also knows that he's got Gilman behind him. And on top of that, I think he's just ready.
Yeah, he's like, come and get me, imps.
Yeah, he's
Father, come and face me.
he wants the
He's
the
Luke
smoke.
standing there
Yeah.
when he's like,
Oh, yeah.
face me, Vader.
face. Yeah, I
So-
am your father.
So Malkador informs the Emperor of this. And the Emperor is still struggling on the throne. He gathers Dawn, Constantine Valdor, who is the leader of his custodian guard, the Golden Boys.
Also
My
a super
eyes.
prick.
He's alright. And Vulcan and Sanguinius because Khan's out of the fight. And tells Dawn and Valdor to go with him to the Vengeful Spirit to take on Horus, and Vulcan and Sanguinius to stay behind as a failsafe. Sanguinius objects straight away and gives a speech about his prophetic death, and he says that he can try and change that by ending Horus before Horus ends him. Seeing his passion, he accepts his demand.
Doesn't he also sit Melkador on the throne?
I'm getting to that.
Oh, you're getting to that? Sorry, I
Yeah,
thought that
I
already
just wanted to
happened.
give you guys a chance to talk.
Yeah, no, I just thought that had already happened.
Yeah, no.
No.
Malkador, being the psycho boy that he is, the biggest,
yep.
strongest one next to...
He's the human that has the highest.
Yeah, he's Merlin.
he's the Merlin to his King Arthur.
Merlin, yep.
Also, to point out, I would consider him his best mate, because there are also lots of like internal monologues that they have with each other throughout the Siege of Terror books that I've read, and I would say he's his longest friend, and the one that's always like been the most aware of what the Emperor's plan was, and wanted to see that happen in the shadows as well.
But he also does all the dirty work that the
Yeah, he
Emperor
does
wants to
all
keep
of
his
that.
hands away from.
Yeah.
So he's like
He-
sort of not a mercenary, but he's like, it's his.
No, he sends people out on like assassination killings and stuff,
He's
and
the
he
one
like
that started.
comes up.
He started the assassination temples, and he's also the one that starts the Inquisition.
Yeah, and he's like, I will keep things under wraps that the Emperor wants under wraps. If these people find out these things, they're... He also like collected a bunch of psychers against their will to try to tell the future for this war coming, and they basically try to escape and commit suicide, and he keeps bringing them back.
Yeah,
And, like, yeah,
essentially,
like,
because you're too valuable.
Yeah, like he's not a good guy at all.
But,
Get over
he's
here.
super interesting because he's so mysterious.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he had taken aside, I think it was 4 humans and a bunch of psychically trained space marines, and said that you are going to be the future in helping us take down demons after this war. Those space marines ended up becoming the Grey Knights, and those 4 humans ended up creating the Inquisition.
Yeah, so the Green Knights you don't know much about probably, but they are a Space Marine faction that didn't have a Primarch.
They're from
And-
different Primarchs, Traitor and Loyalist, but they're all psychically powered.
And they specialize in killing demons.
Yes, they will get their own episode.
But if they're traitors, the
No, well, they were the loyalist
from loyalist
traders.
traders, yeah.
Oh,
from
oh,
ones
good,
that didn't
sorry,
want to follow
I said
Angron,
loyalists and
from
traitors.
From ones that didn't want to follow Magnus. And
Like
all that kind of
Garrow.
stuff. Yeah, Garrow's one of them, yeah.
from the Death Guard that went and warned Dawn and got like bitch slapped.
Yeah.
He like
He ends
that
up
that
leading them,
group of like
He's-
loyalists like, escaped Esteban 3.
And then on
Yeah.
top of that, also ones from like the Ultramarines,
Yes.
and a couple of like one from Salamanders, one from Rainbow Guard, that kind of, and Space Wolves, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he takes these psychically powered Space Marines and then leaves them on Titan, and then they end up creating the Grey Knights chapter.
Titan as in the moon of Jupiter.
Yeah.
Not a
Saturn.
Titan. Oh,
Titan.
Saturn,
not
whatever,
a
yeah.
not an
Astronomy.
actual
Dun, dun,
Titan.
Not
dun,
an
dun,
actual
dun.
Titan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assumed when you said Titan, I knew
The moon, yeah.
Yeah, because it's the only other planetary body in our solar system that has an atmosphere. But on top of that, so yeah, they ended up becoming the Grey Knights. Those 4 humans ended up creating the Inquisition, and the Inquisition was created to try and find threats within the Imperium and outside the Imperium.
Yeah.
They're like, space detectives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
they are the CIA.
They'll get their own episode, but that also gets explained in the Age of Apostasy, which is in our next episode. But first, let's get through this one.
Yes.
So, Malkador understanding what needs to happen, Malkador takes the Emperor's place on the Golden Throne and immediately starts burning.
He basically
he's-
dies instantly.
He almost dies instantly, but he's holding it back. Because he's psychically powerful,
So he
but he's
can-
not the Emperor, and he's not
Yeah.
Magnus. So he's literally sitting there on the throne burning, but he's trying to hold the Terra back. He's trying to hold that Terran reality back. And the Emperor turns away immediately and just says, knowing that this will take his mate's life, he says his name is no longer Malkador the Sigillite. His name is Malkador the Hero. And he and Big E...
Which no one remembers him as that.
No one remembers him that because obviously it's 10,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
So Sanguinius and a contingent of his Blood Angels, Dawn and his Huskars, which are like his best Imperial fists, Constantine Valdor and a couple of his Custodian Guard, and the Emperor and his Custodian Guard, all land on the Vengeful Spirit and teleport on board together, falling into Horus's trap. And immediately Horus scatters them to the 4 corners of the ship, away from each other. So the Custodians with Big E become possessed and try to kill Big E, but Big E uses his powers and gets rid of all the corruption of them.
Yeah.
Valdor and his Custodians are up to their assholes facing these demons in a back corner of the Vengeful Spirit, and Dawn was put into a mind trap created by the warp, where he's surrounded in a desert, surrounded by his dead sons. So he's like in like this kind of trap.
Yeah.
And psychological warfare.
Yeah.
This is something I didn't know about until right now as I was looking this up. The Emperor had underestimated Horus's power, so Big E took the powers of the warp into his own hands and trying to go like Super Saiyan to try and stop Horus before he sees him. And this nearly turned Big E into the 5th Chaos God called the Dark King.
I didn't know that either.
No, and as he was ascending, it was his old friend Alanius Person, who is a perpetual like Vulcan,
Yes.
but he's just a normal human. in
His
that
name
regard.
is Old Person, Alanius Person. His name is Old
Old
Person.
Person,
Yeah, and he's one of the perpetuals.
He's also
who's
one of
lived
the-
forever.
He's one of those people that has known Big E for the longest time as well, and has like considered him a good friend. And
He was
convinced-
also on Calth when the Wordbearers attacked the Ultramarines.
Yeah, the whole Horus Heresy has this like underlying thing called the Cabal, where perpetuals are like there at the important moments. But I personally don't like it that much. But anyways, Alanius, his mate, is there and convinces him to away from this decision, and he instead wiped out a lot of warp taint on the ship and planet, and freed Dawn from his like mind prison. Sanguinius and Horus eventually come across each other and fight each other.
in
and
the throne room, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Lupercal's throne room,
Yeah.
which is where it's like the Mournival room.
Yes.
But,
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything to you, James. But later in other episodes, Sanguinius and Horus fight each other, but Horus is holding back because he still wants to corrupt Sanguinius. He's like convinced him to turn him against his father. But Sanguinius was too stubborn and even injured Horus a few times. And in his frustration and sensing the Emperor coming closer, kills Sanguinius.
Oh.
Horus rips him out with
Yeah.
the claw.
Impaled him on his titans and smashed him with his giant mace world breaker as demons strung up Sanguinius' body, waiting for the Emperor to come in.
What a sick name for a mace, though.
World breaker.
World breaker.
Yeah.
I think that was given to him when he became War Master. Anyways, it was at this point the Black Rage comes into play. The psychic feedback from Sanguinius' death turned the Blood Angels, all of them, into raving lunatics.
Because
Hell-
they're all heavily psychic,
Yeah.
the Blood Angels.
Yeah, and on top of that, Sanguinius was, but the psychic feedback from that turned them all crazy, and they were all hell-bent on killing both traitor and loyalist alike. So
Yeah.
all of that, on top of that,
Because they saw everyone as Horus, as if they were Sanguinius facing Horus and as corruption.
okay, yeah,
so
yeah.
they're like schizophrenics now.
Yeah. And that still persists to this day in 40k. Mm-hmm. It's something that the chaplains and the Blood Angels and all their other chapters have to be aware of.
Yep.
So the Emperor enters the throne room and sees Sanguinius' body strung up and sees his corrupted son, his best boy,
Standing there over the body.
laughing.
Which he knew was going to happen anyway, but yes.
They attacked each other and the final battle for humanity began. They attacked each other not just in the physical world, but in the immaterial too, fighting each other through time and also in each other's memories. But Horus won, and being superpowered by the four Chaos Gods, of course. He had his throat slit by Horus's talons, lost one of his eyes, mutilated his arm, crushed his spine, and then set his hair on fire.
I've never been so happy.
I know you haven't. I'm seeing that fucking grin from over here.
This is a typical shit-eating grin right now.
Yeah.
You guys can't see it,
Yeah.
but the Emperor got bodied.
A custodian guard tried to stop Horus and then got obliterated.
Oh, so they confirmed it was a...
Nope, not yet. They've confirmed
alright.
all of them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a custodian guard tried to step in and stop Horus. He got obliterated. Biggie tries to take him on as he's lying there hurt, his good friend Alanius Person picks up his las gun. A las gun, which is basically like an overpowered flashlight compared to Horus, just starts firing at Horus saying, "You won't go any further, you shall not pass," and all that
Does
shit.
nothing to,
Yeah.
like, Space Marine armor.
As the Emperor sees this, he sees his friend turned into a red mist.
yeah.
And with Horus laughing, he's ignoring the warnings of the Chaos God. The Chaos God's like, heads up, be careful,
yeah.
be careful. And the Emperor seeing this unfold and seeing one of his mates die again, he gets powered by the Astronomicon and then Kamehameha Horus into oblivion.
It's funny because seeing Sanguinius dead didn't trigger it.
Oh, it did,
Alanius Person. Oh man, he killed Alanius Person. Not my son who's strung up by demons.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think of
The
that.
Emperor is...
It's a bit batshit.
He's fucking stupid.
Anyway,
Anyway,
this is where Chaos is stupid as well. Horus tried to cloak himself in the warp powers, but he couldn't do it. The gods tried to teach him a lesson about ignoring them, and Horus realized that he was never in control. He was always in control by the Chaos Gods. And in that moment, he's now dead.
yes.
Horus is dead. His soul is destroyed. He cannot be resurrected.
Yeah, even though he was warp possessed, the Emperor's sword burns the soul away, so it can't be resurrected in the warp.
So he's like
He's
100% dead.
Cannot
Dead, back.
Dead. Not coming back at all. Dawn and Valdar came in and found everybody on the ground and most of the people dead. Dawn carries the Emperor and the others collect Sanguinius' body, along with Varus Manus' head. On top of that,
I didn't realize Horus had taken
it was on
it.
his talon
Oh, that's sick.
the whole time. And then they retreat back to the palace. You just look a bit gobsmacked by that, James.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That's a
so
bit-
you know how Fulgrim beheaded Varus Manus
yeah.
in the Drop Site Massacre? Yeah. Horus had it on his hand the whole time.
This whole time.
The whole time. I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
So he's been
What
like,
a baller move.
Yeah.
This is my brother's head.
yeah.
Watch him talking.
Which
He loves you very much.
I'm First Menace. I am the Iron Hands.
How
I should have joined you. Ha ha ha.
how is that?
Fucking hell.
That's so OP.
Yeah, but admittedly, like he was pretty chaos.
Yeah.
corrupted by that point. So bodies all over their bodies is usually pretty
Yeah.
I mean,
par for the course.
having your
Even beyond chaos.
having your brother's head on your arm this whole time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but see, like Horus at this point, beyond chaos, has completely lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Even
he's,
Abaddon at this point has started to see.
Abaddon has
like,
started to like,
oh,
He's
like
gone a
he's
bit-
losing
he's
it.
gone
I'm gonna
full.
have to take over, kind of thing.
and even Abaddon started losing respect for him towards the end because he's like, why are you not leading us from the front? The
Yeah.
people would respect you a little bit more from
if
it.
you're a front and center, and yeah,
the way he always did it.
because that's what I was thinking. Like, because it sounded like he was very much a front and center. Like,
What they call it was the spearhead.
Yeah,
And he
Yeah,
was always
like,
at
he
the
was at the
spear.
front.
He
And I
was
think
he was the
that's-
one charging forward.
And then he's sitting
and I
on
think
his.
that's also why when Abaddon took over, he
Yeah.
wanted to abstain
He's
from
like-
being completely corrupted by the powers for that
Yes.
reason.
Because he's sitting on his ship, like, waiting for, like...
And this is why
Never
people
set foot
say
on Terra.
Abaddon is a better leader than Horus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, Horus now dead, soul destroyed. Dawn carries the Emperor and the others collect Sanguinius' body and also Ferrus Manus' head.
Father! But then when you also look at the size difference, just to jump in here, between Dawn and the Emperor, carrying the Emperor is not an easy fucking feat. Like, he's carrying somebody twice his size
I'm
easily.
assuming he has the help of Valdor and the other custodians.
Yes, but they must be carrying a limb each, because the Emperor is huge compared to
Yeah,
the
he
Primarchs.
is.
Like,
10 foot or some shit like that.
yeah.
More than that, actually.
So this is where... So Horus is dead. Is this where Abaddon then would get the claw of...
So, this is where we're getting into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They reach the Golden Throne, and the last thing the Emperor sees is he sees Malkador turn to ash.
Oh, yeah, because he
Because
said on...
as he couldn't just hold on anymore.
Yeah, he was
and
on the
his
throne.
his soul was burned, and he was trying to hold back the warp.
The warp.
And
that
this
was
is when
like-
we get the dead guy on the throne.
Yeah, and then they place him.
Good old
on,
Skelly boy.
Yeah.
Just stop it. I've had enough. I'm over it now.
Good old Skelly man.
Add it up to here with you heretics.
I thought
then-
this podcast was about...
Trying to convert you, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
it
not
is.
working.
No, it is. It's just happening the other way.
Yeah.
2 against
So
1.
So Dawn places the Emperor on the Golden Throne. That also now powers the Astronomicon, so that other ships can now see, the Gilliman and all that can now see where Earth is, Terra is.
Because he's got back on the throne, so now
He's
there's
back on
there's
the
actually
throne.
the
Well, he's not back on the
lighthouse.
throne, but he's also now individually powering it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the whole situation on Terra completely reversed, because the Loyalists were on the back foot, about to die in a corner, and then all the demons instantly banished back to the warp, and Gilliman turned up, shooting down and destroying the traitors, and all the remaining Loyalists that were holding back everybody rallied and fought.
Also, Fulgrim had already gotten bored and fucked off.
Perturabo destroyed the palace and then fucked off too, because he's like,
Yeah.
job done. I'm trying to manage all of you lunatics, and this is not working. I'm out of here.
And didn't Angron die?
Angron died by Sanguinius.
By
but I was
Sanguinius.
going to mention that in their episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
but-
I would just mean, like,
Yeah.
if we're counting off the, like,
Yeah.
the Chaos
And the
Primarchs have all disappeared
And
now.
Mortarion was killed, Khan was injured.
Yeah, so-
everybody, yeah.
So the traitor forces are just kind of like, let's dip.
Yeah,
And the Loyalists are like, we need to recover
We need
because
to,
we're
yeah.
dying, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Emperor needs to be hooked up to the throne.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like
it was a stalemate.
Abaddon rallied as many of the traitors as he could to try and escape, and then the Phalanx comes in to help Gilliman and just destroys their ships.
And isn't this when Abaddon, like, this is like he's grabbing whoever's left over that's traitor, like, and then that's when they
Mainly
become
Sons of
Chaos
Horus,
Undiv-
but also whoever he could.
Yeah,
and-
like
that's
and
where
all
they
the
Night
other
Chaos
ships and
Undivided,
stuff all
like-
went with them and stuff like that.
Well,
Yeah.
Night Lords, Mortarion's Death Guard,
Yeah.
World Leaders, everybody dipped. Everybody tried retreating as best they could.
Well, I'm pretty sure
A lot of them
Typhus
died.
pulled everyone back after Mortarion died, didn't he?
I know the Death Guard rallied around Typhus, and they
Yeah.
kept fighting under him.
Oh, okay.
And if I remember right, Death Guard were the last ones to leave.
Last one, probably, yeah. Typical Death Guard.
Yeah.
And
Stand
so they when they took off, they took Horus's body with them.
Yes,
Yeah.
but that's also in another episode too.
Yeah.
The remaining Primarchs do return to Terra to find their dad on the throne, immobilized, and the homeworld nearly destroyed. They conduct something called the Great Scouring. This has not been fleshed out in the books as much, but it's
I've heard
mainly
that
like
term
moments.
before.
It's like particular battles and particular moments. It's basically when the Loyalists chase after the
chaos.
traitors.
Yeah, the traitors,
and,
yeah.
Because a bunch of the surviving Primarchs chased them into the warp to try and track
Yeah.
them down and kill them.
They chase them back to the Eye of Terror, which is
Corax was like, Lurgar!
yeah.
Because I mean, the last thing that, like, the first thing that they've seen coming into Terra is
everything on
Dad's
fire.
dead,
Yeah.
and you know everything's
Some of our
on
brothers
We,
are
fire.
dead.
we missed the war. Oh shit.
Yeah, we've got to
Sanguinius,
go.
almost our favorite brother is dead, and like
We've got to go avenge.
And the space
Yeah.
were like, we failed. We didn't get here in time. He wanted to stop Horus before Horus even got to Terra. All of that kind of shit.
But
They're
before
like-
any of that happens, in the aftermath of the Horus Heresy, Gilliman creates what's called the Codex Astartes. Now, this is I'm going to flash over this a little bit, but this is basically what happens. It's basically a how-to manual for future Space Marines to follow, and like in terms of like battle, but also how to conduct themselves. It's stipulated as well that all loyalist Space Marine legions need to be split into chapters of only 1,000 men strong.
This is the
amount.
Yep.
In order to dilute the destructive power that one
Unless
legion
they're
can
on a
do.
crusade.
Unless they're on crusade, but this is basically to dilute the destructive power that one legion can do.
But so in saying like they can only have 1,000 unless they're on a crusade, then how are they making? If there's only 1,000, what while they're on their way to a crusade, they just start making more, like because they can be full grown within 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, or they can build up and going ahead of a crusade.
No, they get no. Remember from our first Space Marine episode, they're taken when they're children, and then by the time they reach 20, that's when they're full of Space Marine.
Oh yeah, but I mean, like if you can only have 1,000,
Yeah,
unless you're going into battle.
it's because they have a continuous supply of recruits.
And they can rally up before a crusade.
Yeah.
And they can also absorb
Okay, so you
other...
can-
There is ways around it, and there are
So they can get to more than 1,000.
But then
There is-
also
there
the
is
Black Templars are like, we're always on a crusade. That's
we've
how
got
they
like-
managed to keep
we've
over
got-
1,000.
We've got like 7 crusades going at the same time.
Yeah.
so,
So they can have like 10,000.
but I think, as far as I'm aware, the Black Templars are the only one that exploit that. As far
They
as I
are
know.
the only ones who really exploit that. Except
can-
Gilliman was the exception to his own rule.
So when you say like they can only have 1,000 unless they're in a crusade, is there a limit to that, or could they have like they could go to 100,000 really quickly? Well, not really quickly,
As far as I'm aware, there's only 6,000 Black Templars.
Yeah.
and they've been doing it like
But
non-stop.
then they've been doing it because you got to remember, there's nothing but war in the grim dark of the future. So,
Yeah, and that's the
there's
idea of
constantly
having...
dying, and then on top of that, it's 1 in every 100 recruits becomes a Space Marine. even then.
And
So it's
you've got to
hard
get
to recruit.
the hearts and the
And also, some
yeah.
chapters have really rougher than normal ways of recruiting.
well, isn't
that
it
kind
the
of thing.
space wolves
Lamenters
that
too.
the space wolves like make you go into, and you have to like survive for so
Survive the
long.
wilderness.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
that's
So you
actually
couldn't
that's actually
really-
pretty low on the totem pole in terms of.
But you
hazard.
couldn't really do that in the middle of a crusade. Like you can't like.
No, you have that happening on a world
On your
that's
home world?
sending
on
reinforcements
your
to
chapter
your
home world.
crusade.
Yeah. So your chapter home
Okay.
world or your chapter base is just continuously doing that.
Bring
And
it
there's
Unless you
also-
only have your flagship, because some of them
some of them are nomadic.
nomadic.
They only have the- they only
and
live on
they
ships.
do
They
that
do
kind
it
of thing on their ship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also no reason why you can't pick people up on the way or find like a civilization of nothing but barbarians and be like, okay,
You're all
recruits.
gonna come.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Come-
the
come with
idea
the big
is that
scary
you're
man.
going to lose so many lives in your crusade.
You're
that-
really
that-
replenishing
you're not
that
gonna be-
1,000
yeah,
anyway.
You're
Like,
like
you're
be
not-
replenishing your
Yeah.
levels.
They're not
Which
going to get
was-
to like the 100,000 like the Blue Boys were. Like,
Yeah, but like also as well, you got to remember there's like a million worlds, and I'm not joking about that number. There's
Like
a
a
million
million,
worlds within the Imperium alone, within the Imperium.
Yeah,
And imagine, say for example, that they have at least 7 billion, like the population of our planet,
Yeah.
at least, not including hive cities, which have like 3 times that amount.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like that's untold trillions
Yeah.
Yeah.
of people that they can use, and even then, only 1 in 100 will become a space.
We
Marine.
become. Yeah.
So getting to that 1,000 is also a struggle.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Okay.
And are you going to quickly cover what it takes to keep the Emperor alive on the Golden Throne? Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Because I was gonna. I was wondering that
I'm not,
as well.
but I'm not getting past the Codex Studies yet. So
Yeah, sorry.
so,
Codex of Studies.
so he puts out this book. You can only have them in chapters 1,000 men strong.
This is like how to be like, if you want
It's
to be
the
a
Studies
loyalist.
Bible.
Yeah, how to be the
this
best
is
Marine.
how to be a loyalist.
How to be the best Marine,
basically.
yeah.
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 Yeah. Gilliman, Korax, and Khan were on board with it. But Dawn had a huge fucking problem with it, as well as Russ and Vulcan were not okay with it.
And the who was Sanguinius's best boy? He didn't like it either.
Ralderon.
No, the one who like basically took over after him, the Blood Angel.
Ralderon.
No, it's the other one, is it?
Who? Dante.
Dante.
Dante's in 40k.
He was in like
Dante's in
30k
40k.
as well.
No, he
though.
wasn't.
Okay, Ralderon then.
Dante's not 10,000 years old.
All right, well, Ralderon then had a big issue with it. Whoever took over the Blood Angels after
I believe it was
Sanguinius.
Ralderon, yeah. But it wasn't Dante, because Dante's only... He's not that old.
Talos and shit is.
No, they're not. Spoiler.
Are you giving me spoilers?
So,
What
yeah.
the fuck are you talking about?
I'm gonna forget anyway.
Oh, because of warp time fuckery. Yeah, okay.
So, but in their attempt to avoid another Horus Heresy civil war, Dawn relented and his legions were split into chapters. But Dawn hated it because he thought he was being punished for not... Because he felt a lot of guilt about not protecting the Emperor and protecting Terra. Despite the fact he did the best job anybody else could have.
He was there.
He just still felt the guilt that he
Yeah,
failed.
yeah.
And he thought that he was being further punished and his men were being punished.
Yeah.
Russ probably didn't want to go with it because he thought it was not the right way because he better be united.
And also, don't change my traditions.
And on top, yeah. And
But didn't they all
and
have
on top
like
of that, Volk,
a lot of soldiers as well? So you'd be having to get rid of.
yeah, but imagine like say
That's
for,
where successor chapters came in.
Yeah.
Where they would split them,
successor,
so
okay.
then
And
it'd
then
be like,
and then
this
split
guy's...
them again, yeah.
Yeah.
So they'd still have their Primarch, but it's just like, okay, well, you guys.
Well, so like the Imperial Fists ended up as like the flesh, not the flesh tears, like the
Black
Phoenix,
Templars,
the Black
the
Templars,
Crimson Fists.
Crimson Fists. Then like there's like 12 or so like
Of
Imagine
chapters.
if you all Rogal Dawn and you had the Imperial Fists and you had about 100,000 left that survived the Horus Heresy. Now,
that's 100 different chapters now. Yeah,
more than that. Imagine splitting them into 1,000 each.
yeah.
Okay, that's what he did. So he's still
So
he's
you
still
split
the
them into
head.
1,000-man chapters.
Yeah.
And his first captains and his lieutenants all became their chapter masters.
Their chapter masters.
Yeah, yeah. And
But
then,
he's
like,
he's still the head of, like.
The
head
Imperial
of-
Fist stayed as 1,000-man.
Yeah.
But then the thing is that Sigismund, his first captain, who was all about like fighting with swords and kind of shit like that.
Yeah.
He took 1,000 of his men and became the Black Templars.
But that's not to say that if the Black Templars ever stood in front of Dawn, they wouldn't be like,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They
Like he's
respect
still
their original Primarch.
he's
yeah.
still
yeah,
the
he's
origin.
he's the
Primarch.
Gene Father, and like so the Blood Angels split into like the Flesh Terrors. There's so many Blood
so-
Angel
like,
successor chapters as well.
Something Vermilion or some shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and so all of them, but they don't have a Primarch anymore. But each one has like their own captain.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't. Well, they will listen to a Primarch, but their main leader that they follow is the chapter master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like say for example, the Black Templars don't have to listen to Dawn. They only listen to Sigismund, but they will of course listen to Dawn because
he is
they
still the
love
original.
They love
Yeah,
Dawn so
yeah,
much.
and also it's like meeting your boss's boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
They also don't. The chapter masters, as far as I'm aware, don't also submit to any other authority. The only authority
except
they
for
submit,
Gilliman.
No, the only authority they submit to is the High Lords of Terra, which is what Gilliman is one of. They only submit to them and the Inquisition.
Well, he is the regent of the Imperium
Now he is, yeah.
now.
Yeah,
When he came
but
back.
they will listen to Primarchs, especially the Lion and the Gilliman.
Because they're basically demigods.
They're
Like,
still
as if
like-
you're
out of
not-
respect, yeah.
Yeah, who's not listening to that? Like,
It's like in army, like you've got your sergeants and then your generals, and like
Yeah.
they're the generals. Like
Yeah.
you'd still listen to your sergeant.
And also on
but-
top of that, you got to let's put this into context for a second, because 30k and 40k, that's 10,000
1,000
years
years,
difference.
yeah.
And on top of that, like think about our own history in 2,000 years. We've come from like Romans running through sand, being, and just taking over parts of Europe, and like barbarian tribes barely writing anything down, and on top of that, like being so far from being technologically advanced. And then in
Yeah.
that 2,000 years,
AI.
look how far we've come. Look how amazing we've made life for ourselves compared to what it was 2,000 years ago. Theirs has been 10,000 years.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Times that by 5. That's how far things have denigrated. And you hear about these great legendary heroes
Yeah.
10,000 years ago. It is hard not to see them as like religious icons.
well, 10,000 years ago, like Egypt was still being established.
Yeah.
Yeah. And mammoths still were around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like a lot of technology gets lost, and a lot of things just fall into disrepair and religious zealotry because of it in that 10,000 years. But it's still standing, and it's still strong because of tradition and because of,
Yeah.
honestly, hatred for the enemies. So on top of that, you also have to maintain the Golden Throne, Emperor on the Golden Throne, and how they do that is that
Human sacrifice.
They feed 1,000 psychers a day to the Emperor.
Okay, so that makes it sound nicer than it actually is. This is 1,000 souls each day sacrificed in a horrific way.
Yeah.
They're basically burnt out alive by the Emperor's like light, and their energy is sucked into these like pylons
Yeah.
that are then fed into the golden throne to keep the emperor alive each day.
Where do they get all these people from?
So there
As
are
I
special,
said, trillions of lives.
but they have special ships called black ships, and they go around all
you-
the different worlds.
Do you remember the Sisters of Silence we talked about? That
Oh, yeah.
Before, that's their job.
They
as well.
command
They
black
go,
ships. They go to every populated
because they're
hive world,
anti-psyker.
and they recognize psychers. They lock them in chains, usually whole families,
Yeah.
and lock them in chains, stick them in a dark, dingy prison to like piss and shit on themselves and like barely feed them,
'Cause
and then
grimdark-
walk them through Terra, parading them to the throne.
Because-
they take them
Do they
down
parade
under the palace.
Do they parade them?
Yes,
I haven't read
through the
Dark Imperium
streets.
yet.
I was listening to somebody read it, and it was and so then they parade them through the streets and then down underneath the palace, and they chain them like 5 or 6 to like a pylon, and then they basically all get burnt out alive and then fed to the emperor every day. They have hundreds of these black ships going around to each world, like
Thousands, I'd say.
yeah,
Jeez,
Yeah.
Sounds like Order. What's it? Order
66.
66? I'm thinking 69 for a second then. It's not
You
69.
can pick me up for that one.
Execute Order 69.
But yeah, that's what it takes to keep the Emperor alive. And the reason why is because, in my mind, I rationalize it because if the Emperor dies and the Astronomicon dies, no void travel can happen. And
That's not true.
Humanity
No.
will die out.
No, you'd still be able to travel in the void. You just wouldn't know how to get backward. Is that
You
right?
wouldn't know where you're going.
Well,
Like, you got
all
no
of the
GPS.
traitor legions do it without the light of the Astronomicon.
They
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't need it because they can control the warp, and they read
Not
the
all
warp,
of them.
They read the warp differently than they do because not everyone's as psychically attuned, and because they've given themselves to the chaos powers, they can.
All the
direct it a little bit
navigators
better.
are psychically tuned.
You know what I mean?
But
the
isn't-
thing is that navigators do also need the light of the.
This
Astronomicon.
is typical imperial
This is-
propaganda
this
right
is-
here,
oh,
spewing
I'm
out
the
of
one,
his mouth.
I'm the one spewing propaganda over here, am I?
You don't need the Astronomicon to survive.
No, you just
don't-
need to give yourself over to the chaos powers.
Absolutely.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
Anyway, continue with
continuing
your
on.
disbanding of the Primarchs and then chasing the traitors into the warp.
But wouldn't the traders be able to see or be able to navigate the warp because
they've given themselves to the chaos.
to the chaos
That's
gods and the
exactly
gods
how.
the chaos
Not
gods
all
are
of the
from
not all the traitors
Not
have
all
given
of them.
themselves to the chaos gods. The Night Lords have not.
But they
Well,
use it. Like sorcerers. The sorcerers can navigate through the warp.
Yes, but the ones that's like traitor legions that aren't allied to a god still use navigators that travel through the warp the same way the loyalist navigators travel
I
through the
thought
warp.
this whole time that if you were a trader, you were like for the chaos gods. So I thought that
There's a
Curse
difference
was-
between chaos, corrupted, and traitor. The Night Lords, for example, are traitors because they're traitors because they don't want to be with the Imperium. But at the same time, some
don't-
of them, or most of them, I would say, shun the Chaos Lords.
Yeah, and so
Chaos
same with
gods.
the Alpha Legion. Alpha Legion detests chaos,
but they
but
also
they
don't
hate
want,
the throne.
yeah,
But they still,
okay.
yeah. But then there's also Mortarion, straight into Nurgle. Like, you know what I mean?
Not
And
by
they
his
also-
choice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The bias is inherent in this system. Anyways.
No, but
so-
also Purdy, like, they
Yeah.
succumbed to the warp gods, but not by his choice.
They were infected by it.
He was tricked.
Tricked, yeah. But he also gave into it because he.
But
turned
some
into a
people
demon
were
primarch
some
after
people
the
were
Iron Cage.
infected
Yeah, but
by
that was
it.
Lorgar's fault.
That wasn't Lorgar. This is what I mean is that we need the Great Scouring to come into books.
Yeah.
Because all it says is that Perturabo became a demon primarch after the Iron Cage, but it doesn't say how.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes, but like that's the thing. I don't know
Yeah.
how he does, but I don't like that as well. But
Yeah.
see, so this is the problem is that with the Emperor being on the throne, he's not able to really like direct or lead.
yeah.
He can talk to his custodian guard and he can talk psychically, but he can't dish out
But
orders.
does he? Because
As
I
far
thought
as
the
we're aware.
first time that he spoke to anyone, because the custodians were blown away in 40k when Gilliman's back. He hears some words from the Emperor, and the custodian guard almost don't believe him that it happened.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that he's not
Oh,
speaking
okay.
to anybody.
Well, I'll believe you on that because I haven't read them books.
Yeah, because that's in the Dark Imperium books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with the Emperor on the throne and the Horus destroyed and the traitor legions on the run, begins a great scouring where the loyalist legions chase after them and then push them back into the Eye of Terror. But then the Primarchs start leaving for different reasons. This is also the meta part of Games Workshop where if the Primarchs were there, the Imperium probably would not have denigrated as badly as they have. But the thing is that they all had to leave for their own reasons. So
Well, some of them are dead.
some of them, some of them are dead, obviously, but the ones that were alive after the heresy, the Lion is taken by surprise as some of his sons had turned traitor when he tried returning home, and then they became known as the Fallen, which are like traitor Marines. They don't give over to chaos, but they're not loyal.
Okay.
And the Lion was injured and then forced into a stasis sleep as his planet blew up. The Khan disappeared through the webway chasing Drukhari off of his homeworld.
He revved his bike straight into the webway, being
Yeah.
like, "Fuck you, Elder!"
Yeah, and then chased straight after them in the webway. Russ voluntarily entered the warp, but the reason why has never actually been confirmed. There's about three different reasons.
Yeah, the one that I subscribe to is that he's seeking penance.
I think he's seeking penance, and I think he's also seeking something in particular. But
Yeah.
Because he believes that he let Terra fall.
all we know is
Well,
that
he failed to reach Terra in time to help defend it.
Yeah.
and he also failed to beat Horus.
Yes.
But all we know is that there's like legends in the Space Wolves that he's going to be coming back at the Wolfen time, which is like their version of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Dawn was on a ship during a Black Crusade of Abaddon's, fighting traitor Marines, but they only found Dawn's bloody arm. He's missing and presumed dead. He's obviously going to come back because, GW wants
We
the money.
think he'll come back.
Yeah. Gilliman had his throat slit by Fulgrim using a poisoned dagger and then was forced into stasis.
Yeah.
Right.
Put in a
Korax-
stasis chamber. He basically became Fry from Futurama.
Yeah. Korax,
10,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
yeah. Korax felt guilt and shame over certain events that happened with his legion during the heresy, and they decided to enter the warp and hunt down Lorgar to finish what he started on the Dropsite Massacre. It's unknown what really happened with Falcon because he's a perpetual, but he apparently died fighting the Orcs in the War for Armageddon and is now waiting on his respawn timer to come back. Ferris and Sanguinius are dead.
Yep.
On top of that, Kurz was found by his. Kurz was eventually found, and then he was killed. But he
By an
also
assassin.
by an assassin that he knew was coming, and he welcomed the death.
Yes, the Imperium sent assassins out after Kurz.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, but I didn't think... I thought Kurz was still...
No.
You're talking about...
He's
Conrad
floating.
Conrad Kurz.
Yeah, floating in a little pod out in space, and his
And then-
legion finds him, picks him up, and he starts leading them again for a little bit,
Well,
and going crazy.
he gets found on a ship, and then he does like alien style, like
Yeah.
kills them all, and then he gets back. to the
Yeah, I was
legion.
just summing it up
Yeah,
as
yeah.
quick as possible, but yeah. And then he's killed by an assassin.
Yeah,
Oh.
and then on top of that, all the other traitor Primarchs just like descend into their own madness a little bit,
Into the warp,
into
yeah.
the warp mainly, and hiding for the most part.
Or in Perty's case, sulking in his tower.
Yeah, same thing with Lorgar.
Yeah.
But yeah, and with Ferris and Sanguinius dead as well, the Imperium now has no leaders, just myths to push them forward, but with no direction.
Well, the men and women leading the Lords of Terror.
The Lords of
They're
Terror,
basically,
but-
it's like the class divide system occurs in
But-
Terra, and they're like, well, we're the rich and famous ones, so we're going to rule.
We're going to rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is that in the next episode, when we do the Age of Apostasy, you'll find out how easily the High Lords of Terror can be swayed.
Yes.
And that's where the Siege of Terror finishes.
Yes.
Yeah, I condensed a lot.
I was going to
Just
say,
a
that's
lot of
it's
context.
a lot
Yeah.
still.
No,
But
you did
I'll-
well to sum it all up, honestly.
I tried, thanks.
Yeah.
Even though pulling up with your biased shenanigans.
Yes, well.
Chaos fuckery.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to our episode. That,
Like and subscribe and comment, or don't. I'm not your mother.
Yep. I've been Corbin.
I've been James.
Cheers for the next one where we're going to be doing the Age of Apostasy. Stay in this space. See you later.
Death to the false emperor.
Shut up.
For the glory of chaos!